What if I told you that the person driving the $80,000 luxury car is actually poorer than the person waiting at the bus stop? Most people in our modern world are stuff rich and freedom poor. They earn six figures but live on the edge of a total nervous breakdown because their possessions have become their prison guards. Today, I am going to show you how a person earning half as much as you can end up with 10 times your wealth simply by changing their relationship with stuff. If you feel like you are working for your things instead of your things working for you, do not move. I am Luci, and we are about to deconstruct the 10 rules of minimalist money that the marketing industry desperately hopes you never learn. I want you to picture two apartments in the heart of a busy city. They are in the same zip code, they have the same view of the skyline, and the rent is exactly the same. Apartment A belongs to Mark. Mark makes $95,000 a year. Step inside and it looks like the definition of success. There is a 75-inch television that dominates the living room. There is a $4,000 leather sectional. His kitchen is a museum of stainless steel appliances, expensive air fryers, professional espresso machines, and high-end blenders that still have the factory plastic on the cords. His closet is so full that the rack is starting to sag under the weight of designer labels. But Mark has a secret. Every time his phone pings with a banking alert, his heart rate spikes. He is exactly 2 missed paychecks away from a total life collapse. He does not own those things. Those things own him. Now look across the hall at apartment B. It belongs to Sarah. Sarah makes $52,000 a year. That is almost half of Mark's salary. Walk inside and the first thing you feel is space. There's room to breathe. Her furniture is modest but high quality. Her kitchen has exactly what she uses every morning. Her spare bedroom is a workspace, not a dumping ground for boxes of stuff she forgot she bought. Sarah hasn't felt financial stress in 3 years. She has 18 months of expenses tucked away in a high-yield account, and she is quietly building an investment portfolio that will allow her to retire 15 years earlier than Mark. Same city, same rent, massive difference in freedom. This is the minimalist money philosophy. It is the realization that every object you buy is not just an exchange of cash, it is an exchange of your life force. Before we get to the 10 rules, we have to talk about the invisible leak. Most people think an object costs what is on the receipt. That is a lie. Everything you own costs you money twice. The first cost is the purchase price. The second cost is the silent killer. It includes storage, maintenance, mental energy, and opportunity cost. Think about the square footage your stuff occupies. If you live in a city where rent is expensive, you are paying a monthly fee for every square foot of your home. If you buy a $15,000 home gym and it becomes a place to hang your towels, you are paying hundreds of dollars every single month just to give that gym a home. If you invested that $15,000 instead, at a 7% return, in 20 years it would be worth nearly $60,000. You did not just buy a gym, you bought a gym instead of a $60,000 retirement boost. Think about the mental energy cost. Every item you own occupies a small slice of your attention. It needs to be cleaned, organized, maintained, insured, worried about, and eventually disposed of. Researchers have found that visual clutter increases cortisol levels and reduces the brain's ability to focus. Your stuff is literally stressing you out in ways you cannot consciously perceive. Minimalists understand this intuitively. They're not avoiding possessions because they hate nice things. They are avoiding possessions because they have calculated the true cost and decided most things are not worth the burden. Rule number 1 is the only honest measure of value, the cost per use. The sticker price is a distraction designed to trick your brain. To find the truth, you must divide the price by how many times you will actually use the item. A $50 dress you wear once for a wedding costs $50 per wear. A $300 pair of high-quality boots you wear 600 times over 3 years costs only 50 cents per wear. The expensive boots are actually 100 times cheaper than the bargain dress. This rule is your shield against impulse buys. When you see a fancy kitchen gadget, do not ask if you can afford it. Ask if you will use it 500 times. If the answer is no, you are just paying a massive tax for a moment of dopamine. Cost per use also reveals which purchases are genuinely worthwhile. A $2,000 mattress used every night for 10 years costs about 55 cents per use. That is extraordinary value for something affecting your health and energy every single day. A $1,500 espresso machine used daily for 5 years costs less than $1 per use, likely saving money compared to coffee shop visits. The math cuts through marketing, emotion, and social pressure. It reveals what actually makes financial sense versus what just feels appealing in the moment. Rule number 2 is the replacement test. I want you to try a thought experiment. Imagine your house was hit by a fire. Everyone is safe, but all your stuff is gone. The insurance company gives you a check for the full value of your belongings. Now look at the empty space. Would you go back to the store and buy that bread maker again? Would you buy those 15 extra coffee mugs or those uncomfortable shoes? For most of us, 80% of our stuff exists because of inertia, not intention. We keep things because we are too lazy to get rid of them. If it fails the replacement test, it is not an asset. It is a liability that is stealing your peace. Walk through your home and look at each item you possess. Ask yourself a simple question. If this item disappeared today, would I spend money to replace it? Be honest. Would you actually go buy another fondue set? Would you replace that bread maker collecting dust in the cabinet? Would you repurchase those clothes you haven't worn in 18 months? For most items, the honest answer is no. They exist in your life through inertia, not intention. These items have negative value. They cost you space, mental energy, and maintenance without providing corresponding benefit. Every hour spent organizing, cleaning around, or thinking about items you wouldn't replace is an hour stolen from activities that actually matter. Minimalists ruthlessly eliminate items that fail the replacement test. They sell what has value, donate what someone else could use, and discard what serves nobody. The psychological weight of owning things you don't want or need is substantial. Removing that weight creates mental space that is difficult to describe, but immediately noticeable. Rule number 3 is to never replace something that still functions properly. Marketing is the art of making you feel like a functional item is broken just because it is a few years old. Does your phone still make calls and run your apps? Then it is functional. Does your car get you from point A to point B safely? Then it is functional. Boredom is not a mechanical failure. The habit of upgrading your phone every 2 years or your car every 5 years costs the average person over $250,000 over their working life. That is a house paid in cash. That is a decade of freedom you traded for a slightly better camera or a new car smell. Minimalists wait for failure, not fashion. There is a pattern I see constantly among people who earn good incomes but have nothing to show for it. They upgrade perfectly functional items simply because they are bored with them, or because newer versions exist. Their television works perfectly, but the new model has slightly better contrast. Their phone operates flawlessly, but the new release has a marginally improved camera. Their car runs reliably, but the New Year's model has updated styling. These upgrades feel like improvements, but they are actually wealth destruction disguised as progress. An item remains functional until it genuinely fails to serve its purpose. Boredom is not failure. Desire for novelty is not failure. Actual mechanical breakdown or genuine inability to perform required tasks is failure. Everything else is marketing convincing you to solve problems you don't have. Goal number 4 is to create friction for spending. We are emotional creatures who use logic to justify our feelings. Do not rely on your willpower, because willpower is a battery that runs out by the end of the day. Instead, design a system. Human behavior follows the path of least resistance. If spending is easy and saving is difficult, you will spend. If saving is easy and spending is difficult, you will save. Delete the shopping apps from your phone. Remove your saved credit card information from your computer. Implement a 24-hour rule for every purchase. If you want to buy something, you must wait a full day. You will find that 90% of your impulses evaporate when the sun comes up the next morning. If you have to manually type in your card numbers, you give your brain time to realize you do not actually want the item. You just wanted the rush of the purchase. Saving ease looks like automatic transfers to investment accounts on payday. Keep only small amounts in easily accessible checking, making investment contributions happen before you see the money, and treat savings like a fixed expense rather than an afterthought. Environment is constant. Someone relying on willpower to avoid impulse purchases will eventually fail when they are tired, stressed, or emotional. Someone who deleted the shopping apps and removed their credit cards simply cannot impulse purchase in that moment. Minimalists design systems that make good decisions automatic. Rule number 5 is to count your possessions regularly. This is what I call the inventory shock. It sounds obsessive until you actually do it. Counting forces awareness. Awareness prevents accumulation. Pick one category today, like your shirts or your kitchen gadgets. Count them. Write it down. The numbers often shock people who have never examined their consumption patterns objectively. Most people discover they have 4 times what they thought they had. When you see the actual number, your brain changes. The next time you see a shirt you like, you do not think about how it looks. You think, do I really want to be the person who owns 48 shirts? It makes the consumption feel heavy and visible instead of light and hidden. Minimalists track key categories over time. They set maximum thresholds. Perhaps 30 items of clothing total, or perhaps 15 books at any given time. These constraints prevent lifestyle creep. Without intentional limits, possessions expand to fill available space. With limits, each addition requires a conscious decision about what it is replacing. That friction alone dramatically reduces acquisition. Rule number 6: rent or borrow before you buy. We all have a fantasy self. My fantasy self wants to be a professional photographer, so he wants to buy $5,000 worth of cameras and lenses, but my real self likes taking photos with his phone and sitting on the couch. Most items people purchase get used intensively for a short period and then rarely afterward. The excitement of newness fades. The initial enthusiasm decreases. The item joins the collection of things owned but seldom touched. Minimalists test this pattern by renting or borrowing before committing to ownership. Want to get into camping? Rent equipment for the first few trips. Want to try woodworking? Borrow tools from a friend or use a makerspace. This approach reveals whether the enthusiasm is genuine or temporary. Better to discover this while renting than after purchasing equipment that collects dust indefinitely. It also clarifies exactly what you need. First-time campers often buy too much or buy the wrong things. Renting lets you learn before committing. When you eventually purchase, you buy precisely what is necessary, rather than guessing. The buy-first mentality costs people enormously over their lifetimes. Closets and garages are full of dusty remnants of abandoned hobbies. Ski equipment, photography gear, music equipment from bands that played 2 shows. Minimalists avoid becoming museums of past enthusiasm. Rule number 7 is the lifestyle multiplier. No purchase is an island. Every possession you own connects to other possessions. A boat requires a trailer, a hitch-equipped vehicle, storage fees, maintenance supplies, safety equipment, and appropriate clothing. A purchase that seems singular actually triggers a cascade of supporting purchases. The true cost is never just the item itself. A home gym requires flooring, mirrors, storage solutions, and ventilation. A pool requires chemical supplies, cleaning equipment, covers, furniture, and landscaping. Minimalists calculate the full ecosystem cost before any major purchase. They know that a $5,000 purchase might actually represent $8,000 or $12,000 when all the multiplier expenses are included. This full accounting often transforms what seemed like a reasonable purchase into something clearly excessive. The multiplier effect also works in reverse. Eliminating one major possession often eliminates an entire category of related expenses. Selling the boat means no more storage fees, insurance, registration, maintenance, or towing costs. The savings extend far beyond the item's value. Rule number 8 is defining enough before you start earning. The world is designed to make you want more, but more is a horizon that moves away as you walk toward it. Here is something that traps high earners constantly. They never define what enough looks like. So they keep purchasing more without ever arriving at satisfaction. Their income increases, so they upgrade their lifestyle. The new lifestyle becomes normal, so they need another income increase to feel progress. People earning $300,000 feel just as financially stressed as people earning $80,000 because their expectations and expenses expanded alongside their income. Minimalists break this cycle by defining enough before they start earning. They decide in advance what kind of home is sufficient, what kind of car meets their needs, what level of material comfort constitutes genuine satisfaction. Then they earn toward that target rather than constantly moving the goalpost. This might mean deciding that a $350,000 home is enough, even if you eventually could afford $600,000. It might mean deciding that your current wardrobe is enough even as your income could support constant upgrades. Defining enough creates a finish line. Without it, you are running an endless race where lifestyle expansion always outpaces income growth. The person who defined enough at $60,000 of annual spending and then started earning $150,000 builds wealth at an extraordinary rate. The $90,000 difference goes directly to financial freedom. Rule number 9. Wealth is optionality, not accumulation. The conventional view measures wealth by what you have: houses, cars, possessions, visible markers of success. Minimalists measure wealth differently. They measure it by what they can choose. Can you leave a job that is destroying your mental health? Can you take 6 months off to handle a family emergency? Can you move to a new city for a relationship? Can you start a business without guaranteed income? Can you retire before 65? Can you say no to opportunities that pay well but compromise your values? These options represent true wealth. They are only available to people who have built substantial margin between their income and expenses. The person earning $200,000 but spending $195,000 has almost no optionality. They are chained to their income requirement. The person earning $80,000 but spending $45,000 has extraordinary optionality. They can absorb disruptions, take risks, and make choices based on preference rather than financial necessity. Minimalists understand that optionality requires liquid resources more than physical possessions. The money tied up in a car you don't need is money that cannot buy your freedom when you need it. Each purchase is not just exchanging money for an object, it is trading optionality for possession. Is this item worth reducing your ability to make free choices about your life? Rule number 10 is cyclical decluttering. Minimalism is a habit, not a destination. You do not just clean your house once and stay minimalist forever. It is like brushing your teeth. Most people who attempt minimalism do a massive purge, feel great for a few weeks, and then gradually accumulate back to their starting point. Within 2 years, they are right back where they started. Minimalists avoid this pattern through cyclical decluttering. Rather than annual massive purges, they perform small regular reviews. Evaluate one category every month. Removing 3 items per week is manageable and sustainable. Removing 300 items once per year feels overwhelming and often gets postponed indefinitely. The cyclical approach also maintains awareness. When you evaluate your possessions regularly, you notice patterns. You see which categories tend to grow. You identify which emotional states trigger acquisition. This awareness enables prevention rather than just treatment. This creates a virtuous cycle. When you own less, you have more money. When you have more money, you feel more secure. When you feel secure, you no longer feel the need to buy flashy stuff to prove your status to people you don't even like. The psychological need that drives most consumption, the need for security and status, gets satisfied by financial strength rather than physical possessions. You don't need the stuff to feel successful because your bank account already tells you the story you want to hear. People trapped in consumption cycles often cannot explain why they buy so much. The truth is, usually that spending temporarily fills an emotional void that financial insecurity creates. Address the insecurity through actual financial strength, and the compulsion to spend often dissolves on its own. Spending less leads to saving more. Saving more creates security. Security reduces the emotional drive to spend. Reduced spending accelerates saving further. The choice between these cycles determines your financial trajectory more than income ever could. The apartment with the $52,000 earner wasn't a compromise. It was a choice. It was a choice to value time over trash. To value peace over possessions. Your homework today is simple but powerful. Walk through your home and find 3 things that fail the replacement test. 3 things that, if they disappear today, you would not spend a single cent to replace. Get rid of them, sell them, donate them, or throw them away. Notice how the air in the room changes. Notice how your mind feels a little lighter. I am Luci. If you are ready to stop collecting stuff and start collecting freedom, join me on this journey. This is Luci Invests. I will see you in the next one.